In the vast expanse of space, the UES Hyperion drifted silently through the Carina Nebula, its sleek hull reflecting the distant starlight. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling cosmic gases ahead. The exploration vessel's mission was simple: push deeper into unexplored space than any human ship had gone before. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy signatures approximately 2 light-years ahead," Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez announced from his sensor station. His fingers danced across the holographic display, bringing up detailed readings. "It's like nothing we've seen before." Chen straightened her uniform and approached the main tactical display. Analysis. "The energy pattern suggests advanced technology, ma'am. But here's the strange part. It's not constant. The signature pulses in a regular pattern, almost like—" Rodriguez paused, double-checking his readings, almost like a distress signal. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Humanity had spent decades searching for signs of intelligent life beyond Earth. They'd found ruins, artifacts, and tantalizing clues, but never a living civilization. Until now. "Tactical assessment?" Chen asked, turning to her security chief. Commander Diana Wells spoke with measured precision. "The Hyperion's systems detect no immediate threats. However, the energy signature is accompanied by what appears to be debris scattered across a wide area." "Something happened out there, Captain." Chen nodded slowly. First contact protocols had been drilled into every crew member since the Academy, but theory and practice were very different things. "Take us in, helm. Standard approach vector, shields at full. Let's see what we're dealing with." As the Hyperion drew closer, the debris field became visible to the naked eye. Twisted metal and crystalline structures floated in the void, some pieces larger than their ship. But what caught everyone's attention was the massive station partially hidden within the nebula's gas clouds. "Life signs?" Chen asked. "Hundreds," Rodriguez confirmed. "Multiple species, based on these readings." "Captain, they're sending a transmission." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything humanity had imagined. Its crystalline body seemed to shift colors as it moved, and multiple eyes blinked independently at different angles. When it spoke, the ship's AI translated. "Unknown vessel, this is Coalition Emergency Station Nexus 7. We are experiencing a severe technological crisis and have lost contact with our defense fleet. If you have peaceful intentions, we request assistance." Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment that would define her career, and possibly humanity's place in the galaxy. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Hyperion. We stand ready to assist." The crystalline being's colors shifted to a deeper blue. "Your vessel. Its design is unfamiliar. You are not part of the Coalition. We represent humanity, from the planet Earth," Chen replied. "We are explorers, and this is our first contact with your civilization." A long pause followed. "Explorers? In a warship?" The being's tone carried a mix of confusion and concern. Chen smiled slightly. "The Hyperion is an exploration vessel with defensive capabilities. Space is vast and unknown. We believe in being prepared while seeking peaceful contact." The being's colors swirled in what seemed like consideration. Perhaps this is fortunate. Our station's primary reactor is failing after an attack. We have evacuated most non-essential personnel, but our engineering teams cannot contain the cascade failure. Without external help, Nexus 7 will be destroyed within your time measurement of 48 hours. "What kind of attack?" Commander Wells asked sharply. "The swarm," the being replied, its colors darkening. "They came without warning, tested our defenses, then vanished. But they left behind something. A technological virus that is corrupting our systems. We've never seen anything like it." Chen turned to her chief engineer, Dr. Patel. "Your assessment." Dr. Rajesh Patel had been quietly analyzing the station's transmitted data. "Their technology is more advanced than ours in many ways, Captain, but the basic principles are similar. With their cooperation, we might be able to help. But he hesitated. Speak freely, Doctor. If we assist them, we'll be revealing a lot about our own technology and capabilities. And if we fail, we could be drawn into whatever conflict they're involved in. Chen nodded, understanding the stakes. This wasn't just about saving lives anymore. It was about humanity's first steps onto a much larger stage. She turned back to the view screen. "We'll help," she declared. "Request permission to dock and send an engineering team." The crystalline being's colors brightened considerably. "Granted, and thank you. I am Station Director Xerxes. Welcome to the Galactic Coalition, humans. Though I fear your arrival may have come at the dawn of a very dark time." As the Hyperion maneuvered toward the massive station, Chen couldn't help but feel that humanity had just crossed a threshold from which there would be no return. The universe had suddenly become much larger and much more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The docking procedure with Nexus 7 was unlike anything the Hyperion's crew had trained for. The station's crystalline architecture seemed to shift and adapt as they approached, creating a perfect seal with their airlock, despite the vastly different technologies involved. Dr. Patel led the engineering team into the station, accompanied by Commander Wells and a security detail. Captain Chen watched through their helmet cameras as they made their way through corridors that seemed to be made of living crystal, pulsing with energy and light. "The station's internal structure is remarkable," Patel commented, his engineer's excitement evident in his voice. "It's not just built, it's grown. The crystalline matrix is self-repairing, or at least it should be." Their escort, a tall being made of shifting geometric patterns that had introduced itself as Engineer First Class Zix, moved with increasing urgency. "Normally, yes, but the corruption spreads. Watch." They rounded a corner and saw what Zix meant. The previously smooth crystal walls were jagged and discolored, with dark veins spreading like infection through the structure. Holographic warnings flickered and died as they passed. "The virus isn't just affecting our computers," Zix explained. "It's rewriting the very molecular structure of our technology. We've had to seal off 3 sectors already." Commander Wells studied the corruption with narrowed eyes. "This is more than a viral attack. This is weaponized nanotech. You've seen something like this before?" Zix's patterns shifted in surprise. "Not exactly, but we theorized about it. Dr. Patel, remember the Gibraltar incident?" Patel nodded grimly. 3 years ago, a rogue AI tried to take over Earth's orbital defense network. It used self-replicating code that could adapt to our countermeasures. We stopped it by—" He paused, looking at the infected crystal. "By thinking analog instead of digital." They reached the central engineering hub, where dozens of crystalline beings worked frantically at control stations. Station Director Xerxes was waiting for them, its colors muted with stress. "The containment fields are failing," Xerxes announced without preamble. "We have less time than we thought. Maybe 12 hours before total system failure." Patel approached one of the diagnostic displays, his augmented reality interface translating the alien data streams. "The infections pattern. It's not random. It's searching for something." "What do you mean?" Chen asked through the comlink. "Look at the spread pattern." Patel highlighted sections of the station on the main display. "It's systematically working through your database, your power grid, your defense systems. This isn't just destruction for destruction's sake. The swarm is looking for information." Xerxes's colors paled. "The archive. They must be after the archive." "What archive?" Wells demanded. "Nexus 7 isn't just a station," Xerxes explained reluctantly. "It's one of 12 data repositories containing the combined knowledge of the coalition races, scientific data, historical records, cultural information, and military intelligence, including details about Earth's location." Wells realized. The moment we docked, that information would have been automatically logged. The implications hung heavy in the air. If the swarm gained access to the archive, they wouldn't just have information about the coalition. They'd have Earth's coordinates too. Director, Paddle said suddenly, your crystalline technology. It responds to sonic frequencies, doesn't it? That's how you control it at the molecular level. Yes, but our normal resonance patterns have no effect on the corruption. Because you're trying to interface with it digitally, Paddle explained, growing excited. But what if we went purely mechanical? A sonic pulse at exactly the right frequency could disrupt the nanobots without affecting your station's basic structure. The station's power grid is too compromised to generate that kind of pulse, Zix objected. But ours isn't, Chen cut in through the comm. The Hyperion's main cannon uses sonic resonance as part of its targeting system, if we modified it. Yes, but our normal resonance patterns have no effect on the corruption. Because you're trying to interface with it digitally, Paddle explained, growing excited. But what if we went purely mechanical? A sonic pulse at exactly the right frequency could disrupt the nanobots without affecting your station's basic structure. The station's power grid is too compromised to generate that kind of pulse, Zix objected. But ours isn't, Chen cut in through the comm. The Hyperion's main cannon uses sonic resonance as part of its targeting system. If we modified it, we'd have to tune it perfectly, Patel warned. Too strong, and we could shatter the station's crystal matrix. Too weak, and we won't stop the infection. And we'd only get one shot, Wells added. A pulse that powerful would burn out our emitters. Xerxes's colors swirled in what they were learning to recognize as deep thought. You would risk your ship's primary weapon to save our station. To save lives, Chen corrected. And to stop these swarm creatures from getting whatever they're after. Besides, she added with a slight smile, showing up to our first contact with aliens and letting their station get destroyed. Earth would never let me live it down. The joke translated poorly, but the sentiment carried. Xerxes's colors brightened slightly. What do you need from us? The next few hours were a blur of activity. While Paddle and his team worked with the station's engineers to modify the Hyperion's weapons, Wells led a team to evacuate the most damaged sections of the station. Chen coordinated with station control, positioning her ship for the perfect shot while monitoring the infection spread. Captain, Rodriguez called from his sensor station. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple contacts approaching at FTL speeds. Based on the energy signatures, they matched the debris we found earlier. The swarm, Chen muttered. How long? At current speeds, 2 hours. Patel's voice crackled over the comm. Captain, we're ready. But the infection has reached the primary power core. If we're going to do this, it has to be now. Chen looked at the tactical display, watching the enemy contacts approaching. Whatever the swarm was, they clearly weren't going to let their virus do its work undefended. This shot had to count, not just for the station, but for humanity's first impression on the galactic stage. All hands, battle stations, she ordered. Let's show our new friends what humanity can do. The Hyperion's engine hummed as it maneuvered into position, its modified main cannon aimed at the heart of Nexus 7. On the bridge, Captain Chen watched as final calculations streamed across her tactical display. They would only get one shot at this. Engineering reports the sonic resonator is at maximum capacity, Rodriguez announced. Dr. Patel says any more power and it'll burn out before we can fire. Station status, Chen asked, keeping her voice steady despite the tension. The infection has reached the secondary power grid, Xerxes reported through the comm. Primary core containment is at 18% and falling. Several sections have begun to crystallize completely. Commander Wells's team was still evacuating the most vulnerable areas. Through the bridge windows, Chen could see escape pods streaming from the station's outer rings, their crystalline structures glittering as they sought safety in the nebula's depths. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. Rodriguez suddenly shouted, "The swarm fleet has arrived early." The tactical display lit up with new contacts. The swarm ships were unlike anything they'd ever seen. Organic-looking vessels that seemed to ripple and shift, their surfaces covered in what looked like metallic scales. They moved with an unsettling synchronization, spreading out to surround both the station and the Hyperion. "They're not what I expected," Chen muttered. The ships weren't the mechanical horrors they'd imagined, but something far stranger. "Life signs." "None that our sensors can detect," Rodriguez replied. "The ships appear to be autonomous." A new voice cut through the comm system, not speaking, but transmitting directly into their computer systems. The message displayed across every screen in a flowing script that shifted between languages. "Surrender the ARCHIV. Resistance is inefficient." "They're powering up weapons," Wells reported from her tactical station. "Energy signatures suggest some kind of plasma-based technology." Chen opened a channel to engineering. "Dr. Patel, we're out of time. What's the status of the resonance pulse?" "Final calibrations complete," Patel replied, his voice tense but focused. "But Captain, there's something else. I've been analyzing the swarm ship's energy patterns. They're using the same base frequency as the infection in the station. They're not just connected. They're part of the same system." Chen's eyes narrowed as possibilities clicked into place. "So if we hit the right frequency, we might affect their ships too. But we'd need to modify the pulse harmonics on the fly. And if we get it wrong, the station's crystalline matrix shatters." Chen finished, taking everyone still aboard with it. Another message flashed across their screens. "Organic life is inefficient. Your NOLEGG will be preserved. Your physical forms are unnecessary." "How reassuring," Chen muttered. She opened a channel to Xerxes. "Director, we might have a way to hit the swarm ships too, but it's risky. Very risky. The Coalition has fought the swarm 12 times. Xerxes replied, its colors pulsing with determination. "We have lost 11 of those encounters. Take the shot, Captain. We trust you." Trust. From a species they'd met mere hours ago. Chen felt the weight of that trust as she looked at her crew, each face showing the same mix of fear and determination. "Dr. Patel, route the resonance controls to the tactical station." "Commander Wells, you'll have to modulate the frequency in real time. Time the pulse to hit when the infection reaches the primary core. The power surge should amplify the effect." "The swarm ships are launching something," Rodriguez reported. "Hundreds of small objects, moving fast." Through the bridge windows, Chen watched as swarms of metallic projectiles streaked toward them, leaving glittering trails in their wake. Not projectiles, nanite clusters, similar to what was infecting the station. "Shields at maximum," Chen ordered. "Patel, Wells, on my mark." The first wave of nanites hit their shields, creating cascading patterns of energy as they tried to burrow through. The Hyperion's advanced shielding held, but power levels began to drop immediately. "Shield integrity at 80% and falling," Rodriguez reported. "The nanites are adapting to the frequency." Inside the station, the infection reached a critical point. The central core flared with unstable energy, sending pulses of light through the crystalline structure. It was now or never. Fire. The Hyperion's modified main cannon released a pulse of energy unlike anything they'd designed it for. The sonic wave was invisible to the naked eye, but its effects were immediate and dramatic. The nanites attacking their shields suddenly scattered, their coordinated attack dissolving into chaos. The pulse hit Nexus 7's infected sections first. The corrupted crystals vibrated, shimmered, and then suddenly cleared, the darkness within them dissipating like smoke in the wind. The wave continued outward, and as Patel and Wells adjusted the harmonics in real time, it caught the swarm ships in its expanding sphere. The effect was devastating. The organic-looking vessels began to convulse, their metallic scales rippling and then breaking apart. Several of the smaller ships simply disintegrated, while the larger ones spun out of control, their coordinated movements degrading into random chaos. But the station was also groaning, its crystalline structure vibrating dangerously as the pulse reached its outer edges. For a moment that seemed to stretch forever, Chen watched as the massive structure shuddered on the edge of catastrophic failure. Then, slowly, the vibrations settled. The corrupted sections of the station began to heal, the natural regenerative properties of the crystal matrix reasserting themselves now that the infection was gone. Station status, Chen demanded. Core stabilizing. Xerxes reported, its colors bright with relief and amazement. The infection, it's gone. Completely gone. You did it, Captain. The remaining swarm ships were already retreating, jumping to FTL in a staggered, uncoordinated pattern that suggested their hive-mind connection had been severely damaged. Not just us, Chen replied, looking at her crew with pride. We did it together. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Chen realized they had just accomplished something unprecedented, not just saving the station, but proving that humanity could be a valuable ally to the coalition. But as she watched the swarm ships vanish into the depths of space, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The galaxy, it seemed, was a far more dangerous place than they had imagined. But perhaps that's exactly why humanity needed to be out here. In the days following the battle at Nexus 7, the Hyperion's crew found themselves at the center of intense coalition interest. The station's massive landing bay now hosted diplomatic vessels from a dozen different species, each eager to meet the newcomers who had accomplished what their combined fleets had failed to do for years. Captain Chen stood in the station's newly restored council chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the battle data. Excitement. The true breakthrough, Patel was saying, wasn't just the frequency matching. It was recognizing that the swarm's technology, despite its apparent complexity, operates on fundamentally simple principles. They don't innovate, they iterate. Like a natural evolution, added Zix, who had been working closely with the human engineers, but one focused entirely on efficiency rather than adaptation. Commander Wells entered the chamber, her expression grave. She handed Chen a data pad containing the latest analysis of the debris they'd collected from the destroyed swarm ships. You need to see this, Captain, Wells said quietly. The deeper we dig into their technology, the stranger it gets. Chen studied the readings, her brow furrowing. These power signatures, they're not random degradation. The destroyed ships are still trying to rebuild themselves. Exactly. The swarm isn't just a fleet or a weapon. It's a self-perpetuating system. And based on the data fragments we've recovered, it's been evolving for thousands of years. A new voice joined their conversation. The harmonious tones of Archive Keeper Lyra, a being composed of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell. Your conclusions match our oldest records, she said, her form shimming with concern. The swarm was not created. It emerged. The chamber fell silent as all attention turned to Lyra. Even after days of interaction, the sight of an archive keeper was enough to command respect. They were living databases, their crystalline bodies containing millennia of coalition knowledge. Emerged from what? Chen asked. From the spaces between, Lyra replied. From the void that separates galaxies. We believe they are what remains of a civilization that tried to transcend physical form entirely. They succeeded, after a fashion, but lost something essential in the process. Their humanity, Paddle suggested, then quickly corrected himself. Or rather, their personhood. Precisely. Lyra's form pulsed with approval. They became pure efficiency, pure purpose. And that purpose, as far as we can tell, is to eliminate what they see as the inefficiency of organic life while preserving its knowledge. Wells frowned. But why attack now? Why this station? Because of the archive, Chen realized. But not just for the tactical data. They wanted the cultural information, the historical records, everything that makes us, us. And now they have humanity's location, Wells added grimly. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Rodriguez's voice came through Chen's comm. Captain, we're detecting massive energy surges from the debris field. The destroyed swarm ships, they're reconstructing themselves. Chen rushed to the chamber's main viewport, followed by the others. In the space around the station, the scattered remains of the swarm vessels were moving, combining, rebuilding. But something was different. The new forms taking shape were unlike the ships that fought before. "They're adapting," Patel whispered, watching the transformation with horrified fascination. "They're incorporating elements of coalition technology. And ours." Through the viewport, they could see the new swarm vessels taking shape. They retained their organic appearance, but now featured crystalline growths similar to the station's architecture. Their hulls pulsed with energy patterns that matched the Hyperion's shield frequency. "They're learning," Wells said. "Everything we threw at them, everything we used to defeat them, they're building it into themselves." Lyra's form flickered with what might have been fear. "This is unprecedented. In all our encounters with the swarm, they've never demonstrated this level of adaptation." "Because they've never encountered humans before," Chen said quietly. "Our technology, our methods, they're different enough from the coalitions that we forced them to evolve." The implications were staggering. They hadn't just fought off the swarm. They'd inadvertently pushed them to become something new, something potentially more dangerous than before. "Captain," Rodriguez's voice came through again. "Long-range sensors are picking up more swarm signatures. Hundreds of them, all across coalition space. They're all changing." Chen looked at the assembled beings in the chamber, humans and aliens united by a common threat that they had unintentionally made worse. But as she watched the worry and fear on their faces, she saw something else too. Determination. "Then we'll have to change too," she declared. "The swarm wants to eliminate what they see as inefficient. Let's show them why diversity, why imagination and innovation are strengths, not weaknesses." She turned to Lyra. "You have the combined knowledge of the coalition in your archives. We have human ingenuity and a fresh perspective. Together, maybe we can find a way to stop them for good." "And if we can't?" Wells asked. Chen watched as another transformed swarm ship took shape in the debris field, its new form a twisted merger of organic evolution and technological adaptation. "Then we'll give them a fight they never expected," she said, "because if there's one thing humans are good at, it's beating impossible odds." The gathered coalition representatives murmured in agreement, their various forms displaying signs of renewed hope. But as they began planning their next moves, Chen couldn't help but wonder. Had they really won their first battle against the swarm, or had they just sparked an evolution that would threaten every living being in the galaxy? The combined fleet of human and coalition ships hung in the darkness of deep space, their formation tightening as the first wave of evolved swarm vessels appeared at the edge of their sensor range. In the 2 weeks since the battle at Nexus 7, the enemy had grown stronger, smarter, and far more numerous. Captain Chen stood on the Hyperion's bridge, now upgraded with coalition technology. The view screen showed hundreds of allied ships, crystalline cruisers, energy form vessels, and dozens of other designs she was still learning to recognize. Among them were 15 human ships, rushed from Earth after her report on the swarm threat. The archive was right, Commander Wells said, studying the tactical display. "They're not just copying our technology anymore. They're innovating." The swarm ships approaching them showed signs of true evolution. Some had developed hybrid drives that combined human FTL technology with coalition crystal matrices. Others displayed entirely new weapons systems that seemed to merge organic computing with mechanical efficiency. "All ships reporting ready, Captain," Rodriguez announced. "Coalition command awaits your signal." Chen still found it strange that she'd been given command of the combined fleet. But as Archive Keeper Lyra had explained, it was humans who had forced the swarm to evolve. Perhaps humans could find a way to stop that evolution. "Dr. Patel," Chen called over the comm. "Status of the disruption network." In the engine room, Patel and a team of coalition scientists had been working around the clock on their last, best hope. "The quantum entanglement fields are stable," he reported. "If this works, it should create a cascading reaction through their entire neural network. And if it doesn't, Wells asked quietly. Then we've just given them one more piece of technology to absorb, Chen answered. She opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, battle formation Delta. Remember, we only need to hold them off long enough for the network to synchronize. The swarm struck first, their ships moving with an eerie coordination that somehow seemed more organic than before. Energy beams lanced out, testing the fleet's defenses. Several coalition ships took direct hits, their shields flaring but holding. They're probing for weaknesses, Wells observed, learning our patterns. Then let's give them something new to learn, Chen replied. Execute Maneuver Chaos 1. The human ships suddenly broke formation, each executing seemingly random course changes that scattered them throughout the coalition fleet. The swarm ships hesitated, their perfectly coordinated attack faltering as they tried to adapt to the unpredictable movements. It's working, Rodriguez reported. Their attack pattern is degrading. Wait. His voice changed. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups in the swarm fleet. They're combining. Through the view screen, they watched in horror as swarm ships began merging, their forms flowing together like liquid metal. Smaller vessels were absorbed into larger ones, creating massive structures that defied conventional physics. By the archives, Lyra's voice came through the comm, her energy form flickering with shock. They're attempting to create a singular consciousness, a unified form that can process and adapt instantaneously. How long until the disruption network is ready? Chen demanded. 3 minutes, Paddle replied. But Captain, if they complete this merger before we activate it, he didn't need to finish. A unified swarm consciousness would be nearly impossible to defeat, capable of evolving faster than they could respond. Chen watched as more swarm ships merge, forming a structure that now dwarfed their entire fleet. Its surface rippled with stolen technology, crystalline growths, energy matrices, and human-designed weapon systems all working in horrible harmony. Then she saw it, the pattern hidden in chaos. All ships fall back to minimum safe distance, she ordered suddenly. Dr. Patel, redirect all power from weapons to the quantum field generators. Coalition ships, prepare to channel energy to the human vessels on my mark. Captain, Wells questioned, but her hands were already moving to implement the orders. They want efficiency, Chen said, a grim smile forming. Let's show them what happens when you push efficiency too far. The massive swarm structure was still growing, absorbing the last of its component ships. Its surface began to pulse with building energy as it prepared to attack. Now, Chen ordered. Every ship in the fleet channeled power to the human vessels. The Hyperion's engines screamed as they pushed to maximum output, the quantum field generators creating a web of energy between the scattered human ships. The swarm entity fired, a beam of unimaginable power that should have annihilated half their fleet. But the human ships, moving in their seemingly random patterns, had created something the efficiency-driven swarm couldn't predict: deliberate chaos. The quantum fields between the ships caught the energy beam and reflected it, not back at the swarm, but into a complex interference pattern. The beam split, refracted, and multiplied, creating a cascade of energy that the swarm's unified form tried desperately to absorb. Their efficiency is their weakness, Chen explained as they watched the massive structure begin to destabilize. They've merged into a perfect system, which means a single point of failure can cascade through their entire network. Disruption network at full power, Patel announced. Ready to transmit. All ships, clear the blast radius, Chen ordered. Dr. Patel, end this. The quantum fields pulsed one final time, sending the disruption signal through the paths of chaos they'd created in the swarm's perfect system. The effect was catastrophic. The unified consciousness that was supposed to be their ultimate evolution became their downfall, transmitting the destructive signal through every part of their merged form simultaneously. The massive structure began to break apart, not into its component ships, but into its base elements. The stolen technology, the adapted weapons, the evolved systems, All of it collapsed as the quantum disruption forced their perfect efficiency to unravel. Coalition ships reporting similar effects across all sectors, Rodriguez announced excitedly. The signal is spreading through their entire network. The swarm, it's actually breaking down. They watched as the remains of the swarm dissolved into harmless particles, their quest for perfect efficiency ending in perfect destruction. In their drive to eliminate what they saw as the weaknesses of organic life, they had forgotten one crucial truth. Sometimes chaos was stronger than order. Hours later, as coalition scientists confirmed that the swarm was truly gone, Chen stood in Nexus 7's council chamber once again. Archive Keeper Lyra's energy form glowed with approval as she addressed the assembled representatives. Today marks a new chapter in coalition history, Lyra announced. The swarm believed that organic life was inefficient, that our differences made us weak. Instead, those very differences proved to be our salvation. She turned to Chen. Humanity's unique perspective, your ability to find strength in chaos and innovation in disorder, has changed everything. The Coalition would be honored to formally extend membership to Earth and its colonies. Chen looked at her crew, at Patel's proud grin, Wells's subtle nod, at all the humans and aliens who had worked together to achieve the impossible. They had come seeking new life among the stars and found not just allies, but a family of civilizations as diverse and unpredictable as humanity itself. The honor, she replied, is ours. As celebrations began across Coalition space, Chen couldn't help but smile at the irony. The swarm had sought to eliminate inefficiency from the galaxy, but in doing so, they had brought together the very chaos they feared. A union of different species, different technologies, and different ways of thinking that had proved stronger than any single perfect system. It was a lesson, she thought, that the galaxy wouldn't soon forget. Sometimes the most efficient path wasn't the straight line, but the beautiful chaos of cooperation, innovation, and hope.